data on page means you should say use selector, right? So these are technical terms which React uses for giving this flow, right? So till now, if you see, we have got the data on the page. So once you have got the data into the page, I have to send this as a prop, this list as prop. So this is another React concept to the component. Okay. So already this entire page is a component, but it is also calling one more component, and that is searchable dropdown. So whatever use selector was there, this is sent to the searchable dropdown component to show the list, right? So this is a standards. So when I click on this particular row, whatever data you are seeing is coming from use selector and passed on to this component. So left side, whatever you see are props of the component, which means if you want to use this particular component, like you're seeing a drop down, if you have to use this on your screen, you have to pass data, you have to pass change event, you have to give default value, and this you have to give label. So each prop has a purpose on the use of this component. Like for API, I required to filter the data on these two parameters, school ID and academic. So whenever I get a standard list, I should get only for these two parameters. Same way, if I have to use this component, I have to give certain information. What is the information? The data which you should see. The user is going to click on this. So change event. When user clicks, it is going to select a particular row. So that's why default value is used, and a label which is indicated that this dropdown is used for standards. So you will see the label here. If I click, it goes and sits at the top. This is the name for the label. So these are 4 minimum parameters which are required if you want to use dropdown component in your page. Okay, now these props are going to be very, very critical for you to understand in third or fourth session. Okay, because the entire behavior of this particular component, which may be complex, like right now you are seeing a dropdown, but in future, in third, fourth session, you might see a list with pagination. So there the props will change. So these are the props which are defining how the component is going to behave. So we talked about first component, that if I have to see the list, first component which I have to pass is item list, and it should be standards. Okay. So when I pass any data, it is having a specific format. So most of you have seen the request page, and the format which dropdown accesses ID name value. So if I call API, my API is sharing me these names: standard wise division ID, division name, and this entire object is repeating for every class. Sorry, this one, ID name, right? So name, class is nursery, ID is the 1085. Class is junior KG, ID is 1086. So this data is coming, but if I pass this data to dropdown will not work. It will require ID name value. So this is important concept, that whenever I pass a prop, it has to have a standard way of presenting to component, and component tells you what kind of data I'm expecting. Right. So right now we are expecting a component in ID name value format array. If you see, it's a push, so every object is getting pushed. So whatever is created is a array, and that array is first prop which we are talking about to a component to show the list, right? So send this list as a prop to component. Now till now what we have achieved on the page is, on the page load, if I click here, I will see the list. This is what has happened till step number G. Okay. Now what user does, user will click on particular standard for selection. So click event to get the select selected value from component, which means if I user clicks here on any of this row, the component which is a searchable dropdown, this component should return me the value of this. So it will not return junior KG, it will not return nursery. What it will return? It will return this ID 1085 or 1086, right? So if you see, we have sent value as standard ID, right? ID as standard ID and name as standard name. So ID is used in ID as well as value. So whenever I click on a specific row, the click event is going to return me value, which is 1085. So value is standard ID. If you see here ID, so that is 1085. Okay. So I'll see how this is coming. Looks like the wrong method is been considered. Just let me check. Okay, so whatever I had is a wrong response. This is a response. Right, so here standard ID is 1085 and that standard ID is assigned to ID as well as value. So whenever a user clicks, it will return standard ID, which is a value prop. Okay. So click event is on change, and on change whichever function I assign, the value which is coming is given by a component. Okay. Now within our code, what we write is we set this value as a user action into a state variable. We defined one state variable, right? So the next step is to retain the user action.